That's fair. I don't talk very often at all about Fougere fragrances. I used to do some content over it a while back, but there were videos that people just didn't seem to care very much about. It's a style of fragrance that nowadays is just not very popular. So maybe this video has been a long time coming. Now, for the record, I do love Fougere fragrances. It's not just a nickname or a handle, even though I am certainly taking advantage of the alliteration. But to be honest, I think I enjoy the smell more than I actually like to wear them. Unfortunately, my wife did tell me when I wear one of my favorites, Tom Ford's Beau de Jour, I smell like icy hot. That one hurt a little bit. But before we dive too deep into this world of Fougeres, I think we need to define exactly what it is, and this is where the waters get a little bit muddy, because the definition is pretty subjective. Now, based on the perfumers I've spoken with and the sources I've looked into, and by sources I mean ChatGPT, one of the more common definitions of a fougere is based on the original fougere, Houbejan's Fougère Royale, which was released sometime in like the 1880s. And I believe it consisted primarily of lavender, oak moss, and coumarin. Now, fun fact about coumarin, it's a compound extracted from tonka beans and cinnamon that we actually use in medicine today as one of the bases for another medicine called Coumadin or warfarin, which is a blood thinner. Now, as far as the general public is concerned, when you think fougere, pretty much think a barbershop scent. A lot of people will argue against that, and I get it, but that's just the easiest way for knuckleheads like me and you to understand it. So these are bright, fresh, a little bit sweet, a little bit spicy style fragrances that to me have a little bit of like a crisp texture to them. And they certainly have like a masculine, iconic type of a vibe. Now, obviously, a lot has changed since the 1880s. In the 70s and 80s, we saw fougères like Azzaro Pour Homme, Paco Rabanne Pour Homme, the original Polo Green, and then, of course, Drakkar Noir, which was pretty much in every household in America. Now, I don't have any real statistics to back this up. 1990s is when we really saw the fall of the fougere fragrance. And this is primarily because of those fresh citrus and wood masculine scents like Acqua di Gio, Cool Water, Boss Bottled that came out during that time frame that really kind of took over the realm of fresh, clean, masculine scents. Now, you can still find some of those original fougères from the 70s and 80s, but from what I've heard, they've been reformulated so many times that they're not really that close to the original. And to be honest with you, as much as I love this nostalgia, these are kind of tough wears. Now, luckily, since that time, the fall off of the fougere, people have started to develop what they call modern fougères. This definition becomes even more subjective because a modern fougere can basically be whatever you want it to be. Now, to me, a modern fougere is crisp and aromatic and should contain at least like one of the original ingredients from the Houbejan. And also to me, the modern fougere is a lot more wearable, a lot more mass appealing, and a lot easier to pull off. Still not nearly as popular as I'd like them to be. So if there's going to be a fragrance that you haven't heard of that might be worth trying, it's probably going to come from that category. I don't know that I could in good conscience recommend something like Azzaro Pour Homme, because it's a little rough. So let me talk real briefly about the modern fougere fragrances that I own and that I enjoy and that I still wear on a fairly decent basis, and maybe even more so when my wife's not home. One of my favorites overall is Happy Land's Barbershop Extreme. Now, this was done as a collab with MFP Fragrances, and I absolutely love this thing. Now, obviously, it's got a lot of that barbershop scent to it, and it's basically a barbershop scent on steroids that's been working out 3 times a day for like 6 months. I mean, this thing is stout. Now, hands down, without a doubt, my favorite modern fougere fragrance is Zaharoff's Signature Pour Homme. This has a ton of the qualities of the original fougères, being crisp and aromatic and spicy, but it's velvety smooth, it's sweet, it's super wearable with great performance, and for a niche fragrance, it's pretty affordable. To me, this is the modern fougere fragrance. Out of all the fougères, the modern fougères, and the aromatic fougere adjacent fragrances, if there was one I really wanted you to try, one that is my absolute favorite, and one that I think is just absolutely to die for, it's gotta be Polysniffrous Brackish Man. Now, if you're deep into this kind of fragrance nerd world, you probably heard of Polysniffrous, you're probably very familiar with this fragrance. If you're just the everyday casual fragrance guy, you probably haven't. Now, unfortunately, as good as this fragrance is, it is super hard to get your hands on because their fragrances sell out faster than a content creator getting a brand deal. Luckily, I was able to get my hands on some, and this thing is an absolute gem. I even got a backup bottle. Now, this is based on their interpretation of the original Amouage Bracken Man, which I have never smelled. But essentially, this is a fougere barbershop style scent, but made a lot heavier with some notes like amber and tobacco. In my mind, this may be the best fall fragrance ever made. And if you don't believe me, that's fine. you're just wrong. You can check them out at polysniffers.com, but you basically need to be involved with their social media to know when they're doing releases, because it's pretty hard to find things in stock on their website. But if there's one Fougère that I wanted you to try, it would definitely be Brackish Man. Now, these DNAs are certainly not for everybody, but if you're looking to try something new and different, but still very, very wearable, this would be the one. Now, probably not real appropriate for warm weather. This is not really going to be a summer fragrance, but a cool, crisp night in late October, I don't know why you'd wear anything else. Well, all right, that's it. I hope I gave you some information that you haven't heard before. If there are particular fragrances, especially Fougère fragrances, that you want my review or opinion on, all you got to do is ask. I'd be more than happy to check them out. This is the Fougere Physician. And for the record, you know, Fougere Physician sounds a whole lot better than Citrus and Woods. Some designers, a little bit of niche, but they're pretty expensive. I also own some dupes Physician. So, you know, it's a little bit easier to say. But until next time, save money, smell better.